Hey, what's up guys, it's Oakley, and the Beastmen were announced as part of a DLC, so I do have to bite my words before when I was saying it wasn't going to be them. Well, turns out I was wrong, so let's dive into it. So what is this offered? Well, there is this Beastmen faction pack, but alongside it there is a free update that introduces the Amber Wizard for the Empire. Anyways, if you get this pack, then you can play as the Beastmen race in the Grand Campaign. I do believe they're going to be added as computer players to the Grand Campaign for everyone. But anyways, if you do buy this, you get to play them in the Grand Campaign. There's 2 new playable lords, along with a bunch of new units, monsters, and heroes, and a new magic lore, as well as this mini-campaign that we'll be touching on later. So in terms of gameplay, these guys do spawn as a horde, but it's a little different than Chaos in that they're immune to attrition caused by infighting, so this allows you to be a bit more collaborative in terms of your hordes and mass up to Doomsec, as opposed to Chaos where you have to keep your hordes separated. Also here they do spread chaos corruption, and the new lore is called the Lore of the Wild. I'm not sure if that's going to be now unique to the Beastmen. Perhaps some chaos forces will have access to it, but anyways, that is the new lore that they're introducing, which is pretty sweet. They say there'll be specific tech trees and hero trees that kind of move alongside that. Also, the trailer in the background does indicate that they're going to be fighting the Empire, which is presumably where they're spawning over in the forests. There's also, I won't say a new mechanic because it's not new. This is called Bestial Rage, and it's got a meter. And if the meter gets high enough, then you get a free army of the AI that follows you, and if it's too low, then you have mutiny. Yeah, that's a reskinned WoW mechanic, so I mean, it's cool to see that it's here, but it's just kind of a bummer that it is copy-paste. Some unique stuff that they do have are army stances. So first, they basically are always an ambush stance. It looks like that's their standard mode for movement, so they can ambush forces on the move. Hidden encampment allows them to pretty much stay invisible and do their infrastructure and recruitment, unless an enemy spy or something is around to find them. And then this beast pass ability that they have allows them to move through forests, almost like the underway. And it does trigger a new type of battle map, which I'll be interested to see. Unique post-battle options here. It's nothing too crazy. I mean, you can raise and defile, which erects a monument in place of the settlement, which then generates major chaos corruption in the province and confers a large population growth bonus upon the horde. That is relatively cool. It will change the mechanics for how you do things. Definitely buffing your population, which is a mechanic we haven't seen before. Then in the campaign, the Dark Moon rises. There are these periodic full moon events where you have to make a choice of what you want to do. So that's cool. Then they talk a little bit about An Eye for an Eye. It's a compact story-driven campaign where you have this Beastman Lord, Kazrak, the One Eye, basically trying to get vengeance against Boris Toddbringer, which is pretty cool. It's going to be in the woodlands, very much zoomed in into the Reichland Channel in the west, to Hochland in the east. So I really like these zoomed in campaign focuses, and it's going to allow us to experience the woods like we never would have before. This is just a little shot of what it looks like, so definitely you get to see the little villages dotting the Empire, really bringing it to life, as opposed to how it is now where it's these big fortified settlements. This is the true image of the Empire. A lot of dotted villages, medieval villages essentially, around these forests, and now the forests are filled with evil, not just goblins, but now beastmen. On the Grand Campaign, they do get 2 legendary lords, Beast Lord Kazrak the One Eye, or the blasphemous Bray Shaman Malagor the Dark Omen. So each of these has their own skill trees, abilities, quest chains, and Grand Campaign start positions. So that's cool. They each have their own start positions. That's not something we've seen before, so that's pretty exciting. Kazrak here is the first one, so he's going to be a melee specialist, missile resistance, resilience, and courage. He can hide in the forest, primal rage. And if you choose him, you get plus 10% income from raiding and plus 5 leadership when fighting humans, because he does have this grudge that you explore in the mini campaign, which is kind of a quest for vengeance against the guy, Toddbringer, who's actually the one who made him lose his eye. Malagor, on the other hand, is a spellcaster that you can get many of the same basic abilities. He has a cool skill tree where you can get hexes that have a lot of debuffs to the enemy. And you can get him, and what it does is it allows you to field 1 more Bray Shaman, and then your characters gain plus 5% movement range. So obviously they're continuing to balance between melee and spellcaster specialists. And then now moving on to the heroes as opposed to legendary lords. The first is going to be the Gorbel, which is, again, breakdown melee specialist. Very tough guys. New skill trees that they say go with them. Culminates in powerful passive and active support skills, which enhance the campaign and battle capabilities of any horde they join. Yeah, they look pretty cool. They're going to be awesome in battle. And then the Bray Shaman here, Spellcaster Hero, which has the Lore of Death and the Lore of Beasts, or the Bestial School of Magic, known only to the Beastmen. So I guess there it says it's unique. The Lore of the Wild. Lore boasts unique hexes, augments magic missiles, but here one of them allows you to summon a Cygor directly into the thick of battle. The Cygor is a tier 5 unit similar to like a giant, essentially. Some of the unique abilities that you'll be seeing, there's Resilience, which means you don't suffer attrition or infighting between hordes. Primal Fury means that you get buffs to speed, charge bonus, and melee attack. Rowdy, which means that as long as leadership isn't broken, you do get some buffs, but as soon as it starts to waver, the Rowdy effect is lost. So that'll be interesting to see kind of how the power of this is all in the first initial charge, and then in sustained combat they can kind of lose out on their abilities. Thunderous Charge here. The Razor Gore makes Thunderous Charge, getting buffs to speed and charge bonus, and then Vanguard deployment. It says here a large proportion of the Beastmen troops can actually deploy in Vanguard and actually hide in ambush. Now this is cool, I guess. Like it sounds cool, but the problem is with Total War Warhammer is the battlefields are so small that this doesn't really confer that much of an advantage, I would think. Like you're already within such close striking distance that it's not that much of an impactful change. Anyways, the unit roster that they show off. So you get the Ungor Raiders and Ungor Spearmen. I'm not going to be showing the ones that we've seen before, like the Chaos Warhounds. Those have been seen prior. So the Raiders are Tier 1 Missile Infantry. So it's good to see a Chaos type force with missile troops. The Ungor Spearmen on the right. Tier 1, just very basic units with melee capability. They're armed with a spear. They get Resilience, Hide, Primal Fury, and Vanguard deployment. Moving on to Tier 2, you get the Ungor Spearmen again, and you give them shields, so nothing new really in the Tier 2, except for the Ungor Herd, which is maybe light to medium-ish infantry. They have an axe and a shield. Again, these guys, you have Vanguard deployment, and then again you get the Chaos Warhounds, but this time they've been augmented with poison. Next level, Tier 3, Centaurs. On the top, these are going to be more of your heavy hitter guys, more mature bull troops. And on the right is going to be the Gore Herd, which are going to be almost like centaurs, pretty much. And what we're seeing as you go from Tier 3 to Tier 4 and Tier 5, it's mostly going to be upgrades of these existing troops. The Centaurs on the top get Vanguard deployment, but the Gore Herd on the right does not. Gore Herd are here monstrous cavalry, which is pretty cool. Another couple of Tier 3 units are going to be the Razor Gore Herd on the top. So these are big charge impact monstrous beasts, essentially just boars. And then you get these Minotaurs on the right, which are monstrous infantry, huge armored forces. Those will be cool to bandy about. I mean, it's probably going to end up being kind of like the greenskin trolls, I'd assume, functioning very much a similar role. And they do not get Vanguard deployment, neither do the Razor Gore Herd. So I think we're done with the Vanguard deployment. Tier 4, again, it's kind of just upgrades to units we've seen prior. So the Beast of Gore on the top, we saw them previously, I believe. So they just got upgraded. And then the Centaurs on the right have been upgraded with throwing axes. And then you also get access to the Chaos Spawn, but that is a unit that we've seen prior. So once again, I'm not showing them. You also get access to the Razor Gore Chariot. So that's seen on the top. And then Minotaurs equipped with the shield. So once again, kind of seeing a repeat of some of the monstrous units and other units, which is going to be a bit of a recurring theme for the Beastmen, unfortunately, here. The units do obviously look cool. I'm showing models from the tabletop, but in-game they do look pretty sweet. We've seen some images. Tier 5, Centaurs with great weapons, so again, a repeat of that unit at the top. And again, Minotaurs with great weapons. Probably the same character models, just swapped out stats, which is... would have hoped you would have seen more. Now there are still a couple more units to be revealed that we'll be seeing here, like the Cygor, which is really, really interesting in terms of a unit. It's a monstrous artillery piece with a special range weapon, very long range. So essentially what it looks like from this image is he kind of just throws giant rocks at the enemy. So that's very, very cool. Having an artillery piece that's alive, that can probably stomp on and charge units in melee, is a very, very cool idea. You also get access to Chaos Giants. But that's it. That's it. We've topped out at this point in terms of the units. So overall, kind of a smaller unit roster. So now let's talk a bit about the value proposition. Well, first off, this is coming in at $18 pretty much. So the price point is actually a little higher than Hannibal at the Gates was and what Wrath of Sparta was. So that's just to kind of put it in perspective. We are seeing about a $4 or $5 increase. So, what do we get out of this? Well, we get a new unit roster, which presumably takes a little bit more work to do the remodeling, reanimations. So that is there. New mechanics seem okay. The mini campaign is actually what I'm most excited for. We'll see if it ends up being more unique than Wrath of Sparta and all that. I'm not quite sure. It's hard to judge this. We'll have to see when there's gameplay. I think expanding the map and opening up new opportunities. I do hope they bring new types of settlements, but it doesn't seem like they'll do that. So it really depends how much weight you want to put in this mini campaign. We'll see. We can't see from screenshots or descriptions. We'll have to wait for more. So I think the value proposition rests a lot on that, as well as how unique and how much new stuff the units bring to the tabletop, to the game, essentially. I mean, the units look cool, but overall it's a pretty lackluster roster. So kind of to put this all into perspective, I will link below to a complete statistical breakdown and review that the Irish Fighter posted on Reddit. It's really cool. He delves into everything, does a tally of how many unique units essentially you get. So he compares the Empire, the Dwarves, the Greenskins, the Vampire Counts, Warriors of Chaos, and then the Beastmen, and kind of compares, what's the value proposition, saying how many unique units did we have before versus now. And in his conclusion here, I'll just read the TLDR. He says, the Beastmen faction is significantly smaller, roughly 45% less unique content, and largely reskins of existing faction mechanics on the Grand Campaign map. This isn't entirely unusual for a faction famous for being limited and very close to chaos, yet it still feels lacking. In the end, they got the lore and the feel right, but didn't deliver on some key units as well as the faction flavor mechanics they're usually so creative in crafting. Hopefully it improves with free DLC, and any future races will be more fleshed out. I still find it alluring and look forward to the further depth it will bring to the game. So this is a very apt review. He does mention a couple other units that could have been added, flying units, more things like this that I think really needed to be in the game to flesh out this faction. It does seem very limited. And the campaign mechanics, though some are new, do really, I think, get detracted by the fact that they are reskins of the WoW or kind of just modified chaos mechanics. So that's going to be it for my overview. I think it's pretty interesting. That's the thing with Total War Warhammer DLC, is it's hard to judge. I don't know, it's kind of hard to judge it. As opposed to Rome 2 and other games, a reskin of a human army didn't seem like it was that new. So introducing new DLC with an entirely new faction with character models and unit models definitely feels more fresh here. But I still think it's lacking a bit of the oomph in terms of unit variety, so I do hope we get to see that. But anyways, let me know what you think of this DLC. We will be getting review codes hopefully soon so I can give you a bit more. Anyways, that's it for now. See you in the next one. Peace out.